Exchange visitors are required to report the last day of their Bridge USA program at CU Boulder using the J-1 program completion, early completion, or transfer form. The CU Boulder hosting department is required to sign off on the form. ISSS will send you a reminder email about 30 days prior to your program end date. If you decide to end your program at CU Boulder prior to your DS 2019 program end date, remember to inform ISSS by submitting this program completion form. You will have a 30-day grace period to depart the United States following the completion of your program. During this 30-day grace period, participants may settle their affairs, tour the United States, and/or prepare to return to their home countries. Program participants may not continue or complete exchange visitor program activities during this time, nor may they work. If you leave the United States prior to the end of your 30-day grace period, you cannot re-enter on your J-1 visa. Exchange visitors must report any changes to their name, telephone number, and email address to ISSS within 10 days of the change. It is your responsibility to ensure that ISSS has the most updated information. If you are on CU payroll, you must also use the MyCU portal to update this information, and then also inform your department payroll liaison of your address change. If there are any changes to your Bridge USA program, like your site of activity, the physical location of your work on campus or off campus, including remote work, your sponsoring faculty member or supervisor, or any changes in your program funding, ISSS needs to know this in advance of such change occurring. To inform our office of any of these changes, email isss@colorado.edu and we will update your records and/or contact you to discuss them. Exchange visitors in the Research Scholar, Professor, and Short-Term Scholar categories may be authorized to participate in occasional lectures and short-term consultations that are incidental to the primary program activities. You must obtain authorization from ISSS in writing prior to engaging in the activity. The occasional lectures or short-term consultations must be directly related to the objectives of your exchange visitor program, be incidental to your primary program activities, not delay your completion of your program, and be documented in SEVIS, the Federal Immigration Database, prior to the start of the lecture or consultation. Additionally, if you will receive wages or other compensation for the short-term lecture or consultation, you must act as an independent contractor. Exchange visitors must complete the request for authorization to engage in occasional lectures or consultation form to request permission to participate in any activity outside of your CU Boulder hosting department. If you will travel outside of the United States during your exchange visitor program, please be sure you review the exchange visitor travel handout, re-entry from travel outside the U.S., and printing your electronic I-94. As a reminder, you must have a valid travel signature on your Form DS 2019 and a valid J-1 visa stamp to return to the United States. You must also have a passport that is valid 6 months beyond your expected period of stay in the U.S. unless exempt by a country-specific agreement. It is also recommended that you carry your CU Boulder invitation letter or offer letter and your SEVIS I-901 fee receipt. You may not need a valid J-1 visa to return to the United States as an exchange visitor if you qualify for an automatic visa revalidation if you travel to Canada, Mexico, or one of the adjacent islands to the U.S., except for Cuba, for less than 30 days. There are very specific rules that apply to automatic visa revalidation, so please contact an ISSS advisor for more information. You can request a travel signature from an ISSS advisor by submitting a DS 2019 reprint request form. You will select the option for travel when submitting this form. You should request a travel signature at least 2 to 3 weeks prior to your departure date. You can also come to drop-in advising at ISSS for a travel signature. It is important that you keep your DS 2019 up to date throughout your entire program. Keep all copies of your immigration documents. You may need them for future immigration applications. The U.S. Department of State permits the university to keep the CVIS records active for exchange visitors in the professor and research scholar categories who are outside of the U.S. if they will actively pursue the goals and objectives of their exchange visitor programs during their absence. To be authorized for an absence of more than 30 days, you must submit the exchange visitor temporary absence out-of-country request form at least 5 business days before your scheduled departure. You must continue to pursue your exchange visitor program goals and objectives while outside of the U.S. If the collaboration and program objectives will not be pursued during your absence, then ISSS will likely need to end your non-immigrant status. ISSS is not able to submit out-of-country dates to CVIS retroactively, making it imperative that you submit the out-of-country form prior to your departure or as soon as you realize that your absence may be more than 30 days. ISSS understands that sometimes dependents may wish to remain in the U.S. while the primary exchange visitor is outside of the U.S. ISSS has confirmed with the U.S. Department of State that dependents in J-2 non-immigrant status may remain in the U.S. for up to 6 months during the exchange visitor's approved out-of-country period. Please submit this form for out-of-country stays that are more than 30 days to ISSS before departing the U.S. Next, we will talk about J-2 dependents. A J-2 dependent is a spouse or a child up to the age of 21 of an exchange visitor who is in the U.S. on a J-2 visa. J-2 dependent status ends for children on their 21st birthday or if they get married, whichever occurs first. J-2 dependents have their own separate Forms DS 2019. They will also need to get a travel signature on their DS 2019s if they are going on a trip outside of the U.S. They are allowed to travel abroad without the primary exchange visitor. A J-2 dependent's status is linked to the principal exchange visitor's immigration status, and thus dependents will have the same program end date as the principal exchange visitor. If the principal is subject to the 212E 2-year home country physical presence requirement, J-2 dependents are automatically subject to that requirement as well. If the principal exchange visitor is subject to a 12-month bar or the 24-month bar on participating in a research scholar or professor program, J-2 dependents are also subject to the bar. J-2 dependents are eligible to apply to USCIS for employment authorization so long as the employment is not for the purpose of supporting the principal exchange visitor. The J-2 dependent may begin employment only after receiving the Employment Authorization Document, or EAD card, from USCIS. This application must be filed by the J-2 dependent. We have a work authorization for J-2 dependents handout. A job offer is not required for the application. However, it may take many months for USCIS to approve the EAD. The work authorization document must be in hand before the J-2 dependent can begin employment. Spouses and minor children on J-2 visas may enroll in school at any level, full-time or part-time, and study of any type is allowed. As mentioned previously, J-2 dependents can remain in the U.S. without the principal exchange visitor being present in the U.S., but the principal exchange visitor must maintain J-1 status and return from their temporary absence within 6 months.